I've got the acetate, by the way.
Yeah.
You gave it to me.
Yeah, Reef. Yeah.
Sold it the other week.
Desperately trying to get hold of that for ages.
Yeah.
But with some crowds, you couldn't do that with brand new music. But you could at Lush.
It made it onto one of the Lush CDs.
Lush, yeah, we used to do CDs.
Because I bought one of those.
Tell that, he doesn't know that.
Vividly remember the dance floor going off and literally everybody singing every single word back to you.
Are there any tracks that you instantly think of in terms of the reaction that you got whenever you think about playing in Lush?
Yeah, I can think of a few. First time I ever played, it began in Africa, Chemical Brothers. I think I had that on an acetate, and it was the first time I ever played that at Lush, and it just went off big time. I can remember, like every record that you know, I went through all my vinyl during COVID. It was a great time to go through all my collection, and every record you pull out holds a memory. And as soon as I pulled it out, I think of Lush. So that's one for particular. There's another one as well, which you Col remember, Beat Foundation. Hold your hands. Oh yeah.
Is that the Reef?
Yeah, the Reef thing. Yeah, Beat Foundation.
Still get asked that this day.
Yeah.
I've got the acetate, by the way.
Yeah.
You gave it to me.
Yeah, Reef. Yeah.
Sold it the other week.
Desperately trying to get hold of that for ages.
Yeah. The Beat Foundation mix, which I started a set out with at Lush one time. And Cole couldn't get into the DJ box quick enough. He nearly knocked about 3 people out of the way and to find out what it was.
I'm having that.
That's one that instantly springs to mind as well. I remember starting a set with that, and the place absolutely. I just knew from the first minute of that I had everybody right there.
It's always classed as your remix because you played it. So, Reef, put your hands up, put your hands. And everyone says to me, that Dave Seaman remix,
Reef. Beat Foundation that did it.
But I think you kind of turned it.
Yeah.
But that's how a tune can, like it's an acetate, so no one else has got it. This is acetates, for people who don't know, were like a pre-promo. Before a track got released, you'd knock out 10 acetates and give them to Dave Seaman and Sasha and Digweed and da-da-da. And you'd play them out and you get, how's it going down for you? Yeah, it's smashing it. No, it's not working, so it wouldn't be released. So this is one of, I don't actually think it did ever get released, did it?
No, it never got released, no.
And interesting.
It made it onto one of the Lush CDs.
Lush, yeah, we used to do CDs.
Because I bought one of those.
Tell that, he doesn't know that.
Oh, what's happening here? Hello.
You know the cloakroom CDs?
Yeah, the cloakroom's out the back.
I used to know the woman who worked in the cloakroom extremely well. I used to be standing there in various states, chatting away to her buying CDs, you know. Then I thought, how did it cost me £40 to get my coat hung up, you know, because I've just bought 4 CDs for the after party. And then we went back, and I remember.
I'd say those two, and our brothers in rhythm remix of Your Rhythm Mix, Here Comes the Rain Again. I really remember.
Which we do now at the Classical.
Which we do at the Classical, yeah. I really vividly remember the dance floor going off and literally everybody singing every single word back to you. Yeah, that was another special one.
Well, it's interesting that you just mentioned an acetate there. I mean, for me, I was lucky enough to manage some great producers. And, you know, the lads would be in the studio all week and I'd be screaming at them by Thursday. I needed a DAT, and then we'd go and cut our acetates on a Friday. And it was, you could only play this thing maybe a dozen times, and it would wear out. And we were paying 90 quid each to get them cut.
Do you know how much they're worth now, though? Have you got a lot?
I have got a few, yeah.
Do you know how much they're worth?
Couple of grand now.
Really?
Discogs.
So we'd be in a studio, so I'd be there lining them up. We'd go and get these acetates cut. And of course, whether it be Parks and Wilson or Tilt or somebody else I was looking after, and we'd get this record. And then the great thing about Lush was nobody had ever heard it. But you could get to Lush, you could drop the tune and you would get an instant...
Good testing ground, wasn't it?
It was a testing ground, but you'd get an instant feed from the crowd and you'd know 4 minutes into the tune, you'd be calling the lads and saying, we've got a winner. But with some crowds, you couldn't do that with brand new music. But you could at Lush because they were sponges.
Yeah.
And I think it was that, what I mentioned earlier on, where you could go from, let's say, a Tenaglia vibe to a Paul van Dyk vibe. And the crowd was enjoying all of it from A to Z. So some of my great kind of times were playing, I suppose quite selfishly, some of my own people I was managing and testing the water and seeing it going off and thinking, wow, we've got a tune here.
Bruce Hornsby, Here Comes the Rain Again. That was another one.
Well, one of your ones.
We could sit here all night doing that if you want. That question.
Played on the Sensor Mix on New Year's Eve till...
I Dream.
No, I Dream.
Right.
No, what did you do?
Well, let's go
We
through
played on here.
let's go
None of
through
us can
let's go
remember.
through the Tilt catalogue.
No, it's the legend one. You still play it now.
Rendezvous, the Van Dyke one.
Not till. Leading on that story, after we did the Millennium Eve Sense Mix, 1999 into Millennium, huge, millions of listeners. And I used to get booked for random gigs after that. And I remember going to Norwich, a club in Norwich one night, and playing. I used to play, start off prog house, end up like in the Van Dyke trance. And I remember going to this club in Norwich and like clearing the place, like this, like looking at me as if, "What are you doing, mate?" And I'm just done the Essential Mix to fucking 1 million people on New Year's Eve, mate. And it cleared, and you're going then, right? I'm in the back of me, I'm pulling in the back of me box, playing me record, me set backwards. No, but it's just that tune at Lush, and those probably at Renaissance and Cream was an anthem. But if you went to another venue somewhere, they were just like, "No, mate, I'm not having it." And it's so what we had at the time was a special. Musically what we did.
It was a special time, and I had this discussion actually with somebody the other day in Australia about, people say I get people come and say, "Oh, it's not as good as it used to be, though, is it?" Well, no, actually, mate, do you know what? I think it's you that's not as good as you used to be, because if we took the music if you took the music from now and the music from then and we replaced them, we turned them round, you'd be saying that music there was amazing. It's because it was the time, and it's how you were, it was and the whole energy of that period. It wasn't necessarily the tracks, it was that they bring back the memories of that period, and we could easily transport.
You know what did it for me actually on that subject, right? I saw it was 2016, I think. Sasha played in Lush and a jacket.
One of the birthdays, wasn't it? That was the 20th birthday.
It was before Ajaka was doing the Transwax stuff.
Yeah.
And myself and my wife, who are of an age, Transwax played in the Limelight in Belfast about probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I was after the Essential Mix that went off, that he did when it was all the old 90s trance stuff. And we went down to the Limelight, and we were standing in the queue for the Limelight, and we noticed an awful lot of like students, because that's what it is in the place. And we were like, "Oh no, I don't know how this is going to go." And he was playing Tilt remixes and little reworks of things with the breakbeaty stuff going on. And I was looking around me thinking, they all know the words. They all know the words because their parents. This is the stuff they've been listening to in the kitchen. That their parents, and that has restored my faith.
Every generation thinks they invented it. What I mean? Yeah. Underground music used to be Northern Soul. And then it kind of moved, and they were taking drugs and dancing for 12 hours. We didn't invent it, but I think in the kind of 80s and 90s.
It's been going on for 3,000, 4,000 years.
And then disco after Northern Soul. But I think in the 80s and 90s, it became a culture. Right. And there was a culture going on. And I think a lot of the clubs that were being built, and we were getting this huge influence from America and sound systems. And then some of the music was almost being made and orchestrated to kind of intros and drops and crescendos and builds. So the whole thing gelled, and it just became a perfect storm, really.
Yeah. I think Larry Levan had a big thing to do with the whole like drama of like setting a night out, and the drama of doing a set, not just literally putting one on after another and mixing and having these ups and downs and crescendos and that was, and then all of a sudden, of course, once we had the perfect storm of the technology of samplers, suddenly DJs could make records without having to go into expensive studios. They could do it at home on a little computer with this software, along with, and let's be honest about this, along with the ecstasy coming along at that time at the end of the 80s. It was a perfect storm, and it all just kind of went crazy. Yeah. And by the time we got to the mid 90s, when Lush started, it was. I mean, you could go to. I used to joke about. People talked about going to the main cities. You used to go abroad, and people say, "Oh, like you go to Manchester and London and stuff." And I was like, actually, my three favourites are Portrush, Preston, and Perth, because I had the rumba in Perth, Feel in Preston, and Portrush for Lush as well, and. You could go to any like these little provincial places.
But that's what we talked about earlier, because they've got that connection. you got that connection. And we've all done super clubs, so to speak, and not really loved it. You know, but you've kind of played there and you've enjoyed playing there. But then you can do something that's, you know, a quarter of the capacity, sweaty in your face, and you just feel as if you're
But
told.
back then, the kids are just glad to see, like, we invented this Lush, I hate the term super club, but we had this, whenever Lush opened, our aim was to let's be like Cream and Miniature Sound and Renaissance. And that's how we obviously got, and it was to have this thing in Portrush. So all the local kids, we've got Sasha, Paul Van Dyke, Dave Seaman, Cecchini.
You had everybody, man. You had
Armin Tiesto, all these world famous DJs coming to Portrush.
Fatboy Slim, you've had everybody.
And Portrush.
Coming to Portrush.
Staying in the world-class Royal Court Hotel. It was all part of the trip for me. Sunday morning, breakfast, walk on the beach. It was magical.
Portrush is this little seaside town with like 18, 20,000 people live there. And we were, as you say, Fatboy Slim and Sasha, and all these DJs would be in Milan and Rome and London.
Yeah.
And then they're Portrush. So people around here were just going, oh my God.
Fair play to you on that, Col. That was down to you, mate. You know, you drove it, you had the energy to, you know, believe in what you were doing, and you know, the Northern Ireland clubbing scene, you know, owes you a pat on the back, fella.
How many times did you drive up to Belfast Airport, pick DJs up, come back again? Come on, how many?
Oh, 3,212.